Hello, DEF CON 2011. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm glad you guys are making sounds because I was really expecting like a bunch of half asleep people, kind of drunk, kind of getting over it, but like I want to see this talk. Um, so I think I'd like to start off with I don't know if you guys read the proto lol jokes, and so this is kind of I mean even for DEF CON a little over the top nerdy, but I'm gonna start with a joke. So an IPv4 address walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a strong glass of cider," but the bartender says, "We're exhausted." Oh, it's it's so terrible. It's great. Good gosh, can you guys hear me well? All right. Well then, let's get this party started. Sweet. So hi there. My name is Eric Fulton. I work for a consulting firm called Lake Missoula Group in beautiful Missoula, Montana. I know you guys are thinking, you guys, have public transportation in Montana. Yes, we do. And we also have hackers up there, which is a lot of fun. So we can hack in the morning and hike in the afternoon, as I like to say. I also help run forensicscontest.com. We actually run a network forensics contest puzzle during DEF CON, which is pretty sweet. And packets are important in doing forensic analysis of a lot of different things. So I'm also on Triscuit.com. I really don't update it ever. So I guess that's not as useful. I'm also on Twitter, and I'd really like to say during this talk, thank you to Sherry Davidoff and Jonathan Ham. They are absolutely amazing ninjas with packets. And they are actually writing a book, and I was able to use their an advanced copy of their book to do some of the analysis that I'm going to kind of show you guys today. So what I'm going to show you today, I'm going to start with some definitions, a testing methodology, kind of go into how I analyzed the packets, what I was looking for, what I kind of found, some fun findings that I found throughout all of this, and then kind of come to a conclusion. Now, in addition to this talk is kind of threefold. I've got a bit to cover, so I'm going to talk a little bit fast, so I apologize if I'm going at a little bit of a rapid pace. But what I'm trying to cover here is some distinct topics. Privacy, especially, I mean, obviously it's in the title. Because privacy in our lives is important. I think that our privacy that we have is eroding, and we don't exactly know what's happening. A lot of you have an Android phone, probably not in your pocket because it's DEF CON, but maybe at home you've got a smartphone and you don't realize that every day it's leaking your location, where you're at, and some other interesting facts. So that's definitely something I want to cover. I also want to touch a little bit on network forensics because this is what I use to help discover what's being shared over your Android phone, and I mean that's the majority of it. So I've got it's a wide breadth and it's kind of shallow. And if you want to know more about kind of the analysis that I did, packet forensics, I'd highly suggest that our contest is over, so apologies if you're just finding out about it now, but we run it online, and we've got our archives of past contests. I'd recommend you take a look at those, you kind of teach yourself, or try and teach yourself some network forensics, and it'll give you kind of a new perspective on how to analyze things. So, what is network forensics? Now, the Wikipedia article says, network forensics is a sub-branch of digital forensics relating to the monitoring and analysis of computer network traffic for the purpose of information gathering, legal evidence, or intrusion detection. But basically, it's sniffing packets on the wire. You've got traditional forensics, which I'm sure a lot of you know of, where you take your hard drive, you DD it, you make an image, you analyze it, you try and say, hey, what's on this hard drive? But there's also network forensics, and that's where you're going, what is going over the wire? What is my computer leaking? What is going on? I mean, with traditional forensics, unless you pull the memory, you won't ever realize that there's something loaded in memory leaking any number of things. And so listening on the wire gives you a different perspective, and it lets you really understand what your phone, your laptop, your server, etc. is really sharing with your network in the world. Or network forensics could be called listening to the wire for fun, question mark, question mark, question mark, profit and loss. So, how network forensics affects us. You could say, I mean, assuming you're at DEF CON, all of us use network devices. We use laptops, phones, etc., etc., and everything is network-based. I mean, back in the day, before the advent of the internet and the beauty that is network communications, people just had kind of a solid or solidarity. Excuse me. They had a single computer that wasn't really connected to anything else. Everything you did was on that terminal. But now we send all sorts of things to everyone. We send usernames, passwords, hashes, URLs, lolcat pictures with your grandma. I was going for laughs on that one. Sorry, it's Sunday at 10. I should probably cut the humor. Yes, pity laughs. But we send all of these amazing things over the internet, and we think to ourselves, oh, I'm sending my password to this service. And a lot of people don't think of all the externalities that affect that. When they pass, I mean, when I log into Twitter, for example, most people think, oh, my computer, Twitter, that's all that's happening. But they don't realize that they're going from their most likely laptop, iPhone, iPad, iDevice, etc., to probably a wireless router, which then connects to your ISP, which then is routed over the internet to Twitter servers. And along there, whether or not I have access on your actual computer, I might have access to your network traffic. And through that, I have access to a lot of fascinating information. I mean, no one wants to be handing out usernames, passwords, or anything else. And a lot of companies are really good at protecting that. That's why we hash our passwords. But the simple fact that I'm able to look at that is a huge, not only privacy risk, but security vulnerability. So some of our applications send licensing, registration, UDIDs, and all this data can be filtered, logged, and analyzed by a third party. You don't know what your ISP is doing. Most people just kind of sign that contract and assume that the ISP has their best interest at heart. But and I'm not saying that ISPs can be evil, but if they wanted to be, there's a good chance that they could do a lot of damage. Or your roommate, who also is on your wireless network, could do a lot of damage, assuming how close you are with your roommate, or the guy next door if you're using web. So essentially what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of ways our phones could fuck us. What I really am specifically focusing on is Android application security, because a lot of people have done the computer thing, a lot of people have done laptop forensics analysis, etc. But something that we don't realize is we've got this essentially supercomputer in our pocket. I mean, when I first had my first computer, and I'm not going to say what that was, but it's like a tenth of the processing speed of my current phone in my pocket. Well, in my room, because it's not on. And people don't realize all of the fascinating things that they have on their phone and what their phone knows. So we look at it, and if someone wanted to, I mean, our phones have a lot of things. If you're doing GPG encryption and trying to decrypt your phones or your emails, I mean, that's assuming that you're a naturally secure thinking person. Let's say you encrypt your emails and it's on your phone. You have to have your private key on your phone to decrypt your emails. If you're not a private thinking individual or a secure thinking individual, you're sending your emails over your network connection. You have emails, usernames, GPS, etc., and more. And so when I first got into this research, I thought, oh, you know what would be really cool? Let's build an evil application, right? Like something that would be like a back orifice for phones, which I think some other presenters at DEF CON have actually done, which is awesome. But when you make that application, it's ultimately silly, because as long as you can get the user to press OK, done, right? I mean, how many people with smartphones scroll through their phone and they're like, I want to play this game. Scroll, OK. I mean, I don't know if you guys watch South Park, but that's what there's a whole episode on the human centipede where someone didn't actually read the EULA. Oh, God forbid someone read 39 pages on a short level of dense legal text. That doesn't happen. And so anyone can build an evil app, put it on the market, and say, hey, you should download this. And anyone could execute it, and it could export a lot of bad information. And we know this is bad, right? There's a lot of companies out there that do a lot of great things trying to prevent malware, evil applications, etc. But then I got thinking, you know, okay, so we know evil applications are evil, but what about regular applications? I mean, when you get your Android phone, you think, oh, okay, first thing I want to do, I want to stream music through Pandora, right? I mean, it's really awesome having an unlimited internet radio station on your phone. And then you play with it a little bit longer, and then you're like, oh, sweet, I've heard about Angry Birds. Who here loves Angry Birds? I'm not going to lie, I use it. You're sitting in a meeting, you're sitting in your office, you're on the phone with your boss, and you're just playing. Not that they know you're playing it, but the fact of the matter is you're thinking, all of these apps, I've paid for it or not, but I've downloaded from the Android application market, and it's a game. What I've downloaded is a game. But what you don't realize is you've downloaded a little spy in your pocket. Now, some previous research has been done by the Wall Street Journal and by a man named Aldo Cortesi. And I'd like to meet this man. He's done a lot of great things. But basically, I was even going to call my original presentation "Android the Spy in Your Pocket." Turns out Wall Street Journal, been there, done that. They've done a lot of great research seeing what these applications are sharing and how they're sharing it. And so, to get back to the kind of the privacy side of it, in terms of privacy, we don't realize how much we share about our lives. We think, all these companies have anonymized data. And one of the best examples is with Apple. You have a UDID, I think. Yeah. And it's basically an anonymized number that says, oh, I'm me, but I'm not actually Eric Fulton. It's just, the company doesn't know who I am. They just know my number. Well, that's cool. But there's companies out there in the world where their whole idea is de-anonymizing who you are. Like figuring out, oh, this guy that lives in Montana that loves Doritos and Mountain Dew and also travels to these places is this number. And they can easily tag it as Eric Fulton because I love Mountain Dew. And so as part of this, I thought, all right, well, let's start looking at these applications. These applications that I blindly trust, that I think, oh, yeah, I totally believe these people. So scientific method to the rescue. What I wanted to do was create a reproducible kind of project that someone else could look at and that I could do with standards that would kind of display what our applications are sharing. So we've got all of the basic things there. And the question I asked was, to what extent do participants in the cellular ecosystem, so OS creators, app creators, carriers, etc., respect privacy? Now, in my research, I've only gotten as far as Android, but I hope to get to Windows phones and to BlackBerries and to iPhones. But right now, we're going to focus in on Android phones. So my hypothesis was, in terms of respecting privacy, what do they do? And I thought, you know what, software applications and operating systems transmit your private information. I mean, to a certain extent, it's built in. That's what they're supposed to do. When you log into your Facebook, you kind of have to give Facebook your username and password. But what do they give to third parties without your knowledge? What do they give to advertising partners? And more so, what are their advertising partners that these companies blindly trust collecting about you? And so I thought, I bet you they're sharing the standard, usernames and passwords and things that personally identify you. I mean, it's part of the application. But when you think about it, when you're searching for something on Google, why does Google need to know your location? And to a certain extent, for a business purpose, it's helpful. They need to know that I'm in Las Vegas right now, and when I search for Batista's restaurant, they know, oh, restaurant in Las Vegas. But at the same time, I have no real option of turning that off. I mean, I know Google says, hey, if you want to turn off your location data, your GPS, etc., we won't collect it. But what we don't realize, and what I found out later is that they kind of are, but to maybe not the GPS extent, to a different extent. So for this experiment, I built a lab. And for this lab, I want to install, use apps on the Android phone. I want to capture their packets, analyze these packets, and then profit. Or at least give a DEF CON presentation. Thank you. So I built a lab. I thought to myself, I've got this great idea. I've got this great hypothesis. What do I need? Well, I bought a femtocell, an original Motorola Droid, a wireless router with DD-Word on it, a sniffing laptop, and an interconnection. And I was like, I am ready. Turns out you don't need all that stuff to do this analysis. As I went along, I found out I could have done a lot of it in the emulator, which would have taken nothing. But it allowed me to buy some cool shit using the Office company card.